Good evening, everybody. A little bit late here, a couple of minutes, looking at the latest guidance. And the challenge here regarding the Saturday threat of severe weather is the high-resolution model. They're all over the place. So I'm going to give you the honest preview of both of them, what we expect. I'll be talking about that coming up in a few minutes. But I want to talk about what we've got going on out there right now. And that is this line of thunderstorms that continues to track off to the east-southeast. So if you're joining late, you may join late and may be seeing this later. In fact, you may come to this on YouTube later after the live is over. And you can just fast forward probably about 5 minutes. And that's when we're going to start talking more about tomorrow's threat of severe weather. This is what's happening currently tonight. And we've got an area of thunderstorms, still a lot of lightning. There's nothing severe here. But this has been an impressive line of showers and storms throughout the entire day as it's moved through. And one of the things that I was a little surprised at is the fact that I was expecting these thunderstorms to develop on the east side of this area low pressure, the north side, and then the northwest side. But it was all northwest side. We started off with a bang. Eric Burke was here tracking the storms earlier today, and we had some hail real quickly early this morning, and then it just fizzled out. So the air was just not supported for it until the backside of the storm system came through. And as we look a little farther to the north, you can see everything's moving in odd places. This is moving to the northeast when the area low pressure is actually tracking off to the east-southeast. I'll try to keep an eye on some of your comments over here as I can. Got 1,000 people on here already. That's awesome. And we've got about, let's see how many people. Got 154 on YouTube. Again, YouTube's kind of a new thing for us. We're trying to get on all our platforms. We do this, it's called Weather Extra. We're doing this on Weather Extra on everything we can at 9:30 every night, and then other periods throughout the day. So I just wanted to show you, I clicked playlist, right? Oh, nope, not playlist. It is double box. Double box. Yeah. So this is from earlier today, and it really looked like it snowed. This was in Haleyville, actually Russellville. Haleyville had some similar conditions, but you can just see it looks like snow, and this is slick, believe it or not, as you go down the road on this. You also got some hail fog out there too. So I just click double box or next. There's next. All right, I almost needed my glasses for that. So again, just several pictures, a lot of hail, and I saw this on how many pictures? Just three? Four pictures. Got one more left. Some of the downspouts on your homes were actually throwing some of the hail down and had little drifts of hail out there too. And kind of interesting how this all just, we expected hail today. We did have some quarter-size hail and close to golf ball size hail. We haven't had any reports of damaging winds from this. We were a little concerned at some point in the afternoon that we would see some damaging winds, but that hasn't been the case. Things have kind of quieted down, so there's some good news there. But we're going to get back into the actual forecast here. Again, this is 48 extra. So as we go forward in time, the storm system we're going to be talking about, and we have been talking about all week really, is just now starting to move across parts of California. And as it does so, it's been producing, I don't know where this came from, got low-level jet pop. So we're going to talk about this. Again, my computer's out in the studio, and for some reason we've got, oh, you know what it is? I need to go restart it really quick, unless I can back up. I'm just going to back up here. And we're just going to back it. Yeah, there we go. This is a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to back up. Again, this is all stuff you're going to see. We're going to talk a lot more about this. But that's what I wanted to talk about. We've got the storm system out here. Now it's east of California. It's right over Las Vegas. So they've been having this nasty cloudy weather out there. But you notice down to the south of El Paso, that's all that tropical moisture coming from the Pacific. But once this area low pressure here, this is going to create a lot of wind damage in Texas tomorrow, up into Kansas and Oklahoma. They're talking winds 70 to 80 miles an hour, not even with thunderstorms. So we're going to have a massive outbreak of wildfires probably across the Texas Panhandle tomorrow, and that's going to be a real threat to cattle and livestock out there, and of course all those wind farms too. But that's something we're watching. That's kind of a precursor to what is moving in here. I'm going to take a quick break here. Again, this is a still screen, and then we're going to get in depth about what's coming our way. Again, we're going to compare the two different models coming up. The high resolution model, we've got those tracks, the helicity tracks. We're going to talk about that. The HRRR model is kind of rain cooling us. So that's another trend we're going to have to watch. But again, I'll be back here in about 40 seconds. We got the countdown, 10 more seconds left. Thank One Source Roofing here for the sponsor. Again, I'm hoping we can actually have some video here. It's hard to kind of sit still during just a screen, especially if you're watching the TV and your phone at the same time. So we're going to stop that break, and we're going to get back to business here. Again, this is 48 Extra. Here's what you've tuned in for. We're going to talk about the severe weather threat, and this is why we're most concerned. This is why it's not unusual to see severe weather this time of year. Even outbreaks of severe weather. I do believe this is going to be an outbreak somewhere in Alabama. We don't know if it's going to end up south of us, right on top of us, or the entire state. So with that in mind, let's get into the forecast here. What I want to talk about is the first severe timeline here. We've been talking kind of back and forth about this, and there's two phases of the storm system that are complicated. The first phase here, and this is why you need a weather radio, and I'm seeing some comments on here, people looking for weather radios. Ace Hardware may have weather radios, if you can find one there. Again, the weather radio is good for the middle of the night. Don't count on your siren outside, unless it's like right in your neighborhood. Then you might be able to hear it. Keep in mind, the outdoor sirens are just that, outdoor sirens. They're more for people who are at ball games, who are outdoor events, who are driving around with the windows down, who can hear the sirens. If you're inside, a lot of times you can't hear them because usually when we have severe weather, we have heavy rain too. So no weather radio, great tool. It's very loud. It'll wake you up in the middle of the night, and we've got a way to program it. The new radios are very, very easy to program. So you can get the WIA alerts will likely go out on your phone as well. So it's overnight tomorrow night, isolated supercell threat, damaging winds. We could have long track tornadoes. That threat kind of develops between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., and then we get a break. So 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. and east of I-65. So that's round one. This is round two, and the reason I've got it shaped like this is because everything's coming in from the south and moving north. Now, I don't think it's going to be a straight 12 hours of rain and severe storms. There will likely be breaks built into this. There usually are. And the HRRR model, high resolution, actually has an initial round of severe weather, and then it rain cools us, and it puts the severe weather south towards Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, eventually Auburn and Montgomery. And we're going to go through that scenario here in a second, coming up on 9:41. All right, so here's what we're looking at as we go beyond that. Again, that's a 12-hour period of the potential for severe weather. And I mentioned if you need to seek shelter, again, if we end up with the worst case scenario, even the medium case scenario, you're going to be seeking shelter several times. The best place is going to be in the interior part of your home, an interior closet. You want to be away from the windows because even if you don't have a direct hit from the tornado, there's a possibility we're going to have 70 to 80 mile per hour winds moving through that'll bust the glass out. And I mentioned this last night, your garage door is probably the most vulnerable thing on your house outside the windows. I've been to several presentations at the weather conferences I go to. Everybody's like, you're on vacation again, but I'm at a conference. I'm learning things. But that door, it gets punched out by an 85, 90 mile an hour wind, and then the roof goes because that wind gets trapped. And when the wind gets trapped, there's other wind behind it. It accelerates. And there's also something we've been looking at with hurricanes as they come through. You have subdivisions, and what happens is you've got roughly 5 to 10 feet between you and your neighbor, and the wind gets funneled through those houses, and you get little eddies that form around the roof. So that's what tears roofs off too. So that usually happens around 80 miles an hour. So you want to be seeking shelter. If you have a mobile home, you want to be somewhere else. That's what the best thing given the fact we're faced with a fairly significant threat, and it's a threat, it's a potential, I want to stress that, If you have a mobile home, I would just think of somewhere else that's going to be there because it's going to be safer than the mobile home, especially the number of mobile homes that I have seen destroyed. And what happens to your mobile home is it flies through the air when you get these EF2, EF3 type tornadoes. It flips, it flies about, I'd say, probably 300 yards. And in that flight, it flips, and all that's left on the bottom side is the frame of your mobile home. So you want to do not be in a mobile home. That's the basic principle here. We're going to try to give you, again, we're going to be doing storm tracks with, if we get supercell storms, we're going to be doing most likely 45-minute to hour-long storm tracks. These storms are going to be moving at 55 to 65 miles per hour. So this is the beginning here. This is early Saturday morning. This is starting to look a little more ominous than it did, and this is if the cap breaks, what we call the cap. It's like you're in a building, you go up to the tallest floor, and the air is usually colder. But in this case, the air is going to be warm as you go up. So we need the colder air to come in and kind of move that cap off. Kind of Mother Nature turns the air conditioning on and cools that off. And it happens as these winds increase and the cooler air aloft begins pushed in one direction. And then you get upward vertical velocity and you get that motion set forward where you get the storms breaking through the cap. This would be that indication. And you're going to see these areas of blue and white. Those are helicity tracks based on the HRRR model. And I'm going to talk about the helicity tracks on the Barron Services here in Huntsville, BAMS model. The HRRR tends to overdo a lot of stuff when we're kind of borderline with a high shear, low cape. It does okay when you've got everything all together. So that's the conflict here with my forecast, is the HRRR should be doing a relatively good job, but the BAMS model from Barron Services in Huntsville does a really good job too. So I've got two really good models that we're going to be looking at. And those numbers you're looking at, the 1300J/kg, that's joules per kilogram. That's the instability, that's the buoyancy of the air, and anything over 1,000 is going to be conducive for tornadoes and severe storms. So this is why you need your weather radio on tomorrow night, and we're looking at these tracks for supercells, especially that one south of Hamilton moving northeast into Lawrence County, and there's another one up into southern Middle Tennessee. So I think we're going to have a lot of space between the storms, but you notice how they kind of train together here and move into Morgan County around 4 or 5 in the morning. So there is our first real threat, but you notice as it moves east, it's running into the lower Cape, so you get to 300 joules or so. So that's going to weaken some of this. So I don't see much of a risk east of I-65 with the morning convection. Now, as we get past the early morning convection and we get on into the afternoon, we start to see some rain-cooled air to the south. This is the thing the other model doesn't show. So if we get storms south of us, notice how that's choking off that instability. However, farther north you have instability, so that's where you get the split. I've seen this in the past. I've been in situations where we're hyping severe weather all week, and lo and behold, the day comes and we get covered with rain, and the severe storms end up north and end up south. I've had that happen a few times, and of course I've had to answer for that too. So we're trying to prepare you for all of this. So that moves northeast. This is 11:30 in the morning. We still have higher instability, mainly in Mississippi here. Keep in mind this is one model, and it has it rain cooled over here everywhere east. So if that happens, man, I'm going to be really, really happy. All the severe weather ends up to the south in this situation. Again, this is the latest model run coming in, the HRRR. Notice all the blue lines, they're south of us. They're down in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. So this model here is indicating the severe weather and tornado outbreak is going to be south of us. So we'll watch that. And I will say, it kind of sneaks up to the north here towards 4:30 in the afternoon. Notice the instability coming in from the south. I will say it's the Storm Prediction Center relies heavily on the HRRR model. They lean on it all the time. They probably don't have access to the BAMS model, and I'm going to show you that coming up. This is a look at the same model, but it's got a different background. That is going to be the Energy Helicity Index, and it's much lower east as well. So that kind of smashes that threat. It keeps us rain cooled. So that would be really good news. It would rain all day. So it's actually good to see this, especially if you have some anxiety going on about this. This is good news for you. But that's probably best case scenario. And it's going to end up somewhere in between. So now we're going to talk about worst case scenario. this is the helicity tracks, and I've posted a few of these online. And what this is doing, this is the model indicating where the rotation may be, and it tracks it over time northeast. So these storms would be moving northeast at roughly 50 to 60 miles an hour. So along these tracks where you get the purple, those would indicate stronger tornadoes. Also keep in mind, this is data. This gives you the setup, the spacing between these tracks. It's not going to be exact, but the fact it's kind of showing some of our more vulnerable tracks, that would be from Russellville into Limestone County through Moulton up to Harvest Monrovia, and then the other one from Coleman northeast into Huntsville, and the other one there near Gunnersville, Albertville, and Sand Mountain. That is a concern with this model. So we're going to watch the trends, and I'll have an update tomorrow. This is what it's depicting as far as the rain. This basically hammers North Alabama and southern Middle Tennessee and leaves a squall line down to the south near Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. So this would put the maximum impact and tornado outbreak in North Alabama. You see those purple areas, especially south of Huntsville at that time. Those are supercells depicted by the model guidance. And then eventually we have a line of storms out to the west. So again, this is the most concerning model guidance, and the graph model we use here also shows the same outcome. So that's the challenge here. It's trying to warn you, but not scare you, but make sure you are prepared. Multiple rounds here coming through 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then on our way into the evening hours. Another round of supercells here around 7 o'clock, moving through Coleman, moving through Smith Lake, moving on the east side of Huntsville, and eventually towards Sand Mountain. So that is the reason you're seeing those helicity tracks in these areas. At this time, 9 o'clock, it's got that area near Henniger, Pisgah. Again, you all know these areas are very vulnerable with these situations. And then it has one last area around 11 o'clock. So again, I just want to let you know we continue to watch this, and we will continue to keep you up to date. I'm going to have the latest forecast coming up tonight at 10, but you've already seen everything that I need to show you, because that's why we call it Weather Extra. We've spent the last almost 20 minutes now talking about this. Not able to answer too many of your questions, but yeah, hopefully this fizzles out. Somebody mentioned rain-wrapped tornadoes. Yeah, they would be HP supercells, which is high precipitation supercell. So again, some of you probably fatigued. I mean, I myself, I go to Facebook, I see all the graphics, and sometimes I see the same graphics from the Weather Service. So that's why I want to put this video, and I've put some other videos on YouTube together so you can actually put some animation behind this, because like the biggest question I usually get would be a still graphic that I have, because someone will say, well, it doesn't show any storms here in Russellville, we're going to be fine. And it's like, no, that's 4 o'clock or that's 3 o'clock. So it's a snapshot in time, and keep that in mind on all the graphics you see on social media. And no one particular model is going to be right. So that's why I showed you 2 examples here. I showed you the worst case scenario, and I showed you the best case scenario. Both of those bring still a threat for severe weather and tornadoes. So again, I thank you guys for tuning in. I got to get out on set for this 10 o'clock newscast. And go Jayhawks, by the way. I haven't checked in on the game. Don't tell me how they're doing.